Cooperation or APEC. This will be an important opportunity for the Philippines to work closely with their economic partners in the region to take stock of the efforts to facilitate economic growth and prosperity in the Asia-Pacific and to determine ways of moving forward to achieve our shared goals. The theme of this year's APEC Economic Leaders Meeting is Quality Growth and Human Capital Development, a foundation for sustainable growth in the Asia-Pacific. In the meetings, I will bring to the fore key components of my 10-point socioeconomic program, particularly improvements in doing business through more efficient and responsive governance, massive investments in new infrastructure, a new focus on the rural development, and increased investments in human capital. My message to APEC will be clear. The Philippines is open for business. We will do everything to make sure that business, particularly MSMEs, will thrive and flourish, small and medium. I will highlight government policy support as well as efforts to address corruption and criminality as building blocks of a strong and resilient economy aimed at inclusive and continued growth. As I have said before, your government is working very hard to make sure that our economy will finally take flight. I really hope so. Nasa runway lang tayo hanggang ngayon. We must harness the potential of this huge region to ensure that no one, especially our citizens, are left behind in the march to greater progress and prosperity. Our people are at the core of our program on inclusive growth and sustainable development. We will spare no effort to realize this in the context of APEC. This will be my first official visit to South America, with whom we share a meaningful history and centuries-old affinity. As we look to expand our horizons and pursue an independent foreign policy, the Philippines and the Filipino businesses must be ready to further deepen and broaden our engagement with South America, especially those that straddle the Pacific as economic partners. Maraming salamat po. I just would like, may mga briefer kasi ako every, lahat ito, it's almost drugs. All over the country, drug-related cases. Meron on the rise itong child abuse, sexual or battery, and itong crime against women. Medyo tumataas. I think we'll have to talk to the DSWD. I might really overlook this thing when I come back. Marami kasi dito yung minors na may patay dito na hinayaan lang sa magpipinsan, and the mother is working in the Middle East. 2-year-old na bata, battered. And this is really very disturbing for a human being who cannot defend himself to die in a brutal manner through negligence. We'll have to do something about this. Alam mo, marami yan. yung mga anak nila iniiwan lang sa mga kapatid, pinsan, and they work their ass to death. Pagdating dito, napurnada yung pagod nila, either because the children are not at par with expectations nang kapag makatapos yung iba malulong sa droga. These are the things that we have to balance. Sayang naman yung pagod ng tao nagpapakamatay doon sa Middle East. And I must be really frank with you. They are quite brutal in treating foreigners there. Not all countries. But in some, hindi nila pinapansin. And let me just say once again in connection with this, I feel this is very important. Years ago, I went to Saudi Arabia because 3 of the Davaoenos and 2 from Jensan were caught by the religious police giving out rosaries. So they were in prison, and the father and mother of those families were at the gate of my house every day crying. And so I was forced to make the trip together with the Langgaling sa Lupudin. I asked the Moro politicians to go with me so that I can explain better to King Fahd. At it was a bit matanda na, but he could still grasp what was being talked about. Ayaw ko tahan sabihin ito pero you must understand that we have to improve our country to accommodate all these people because we want them to come home. In some countries, not all, no condemnation in any particular government. But sinabi sa akin noon ng counterpart ko noon sa Congress because I was a member of the Law and Order. Sabi nung advisor ni King Fahd, you better talk to your counterpart. And sinabi sa akin, in the Arab culture, if you are paid to do a work, or you are bought from the slaves market of Africa, and you work there, the treatment is the same. You are a slave, and your body is open for use also. Ayaw ko lang yan sabihin kasi kung nandito, but hindi naman lahat. Yun lang yung mga ulol siguro na torpe. But that is really the naked truth that I want to say to you now. We have to improve on however we do it, we have to improve the country. And I hope patapos na ang fight against drugs. There's now a lesser supply. Problem is, bumalik sila doon sa kidnapping pati hold up. And the other common crimes not related to drugs because it is easy really itong sa shabu. Less danger. Problem is, you really cannot stop people from, even in progressive countries, they are at it. And so we are of no exception. Yun lang ang bata bong ito yung dito. I do not want to pull my own chair. Hindi ko na kailangan magyabang. Presidente na ako. But of all the people, because sinasadya ko talaga yan I purposely do it. Bad manners, para makuha ko yung talaga. What would be the worst reaction of the nation, of my style? Pero sinasadya ko yan. Actually, kung galit ako, talagang ganon ko. Because all the while, when I was trying to explain that the 300 to 3,000 people who died in the fight against drugs, especially at the beginning of the first 2 months. Hindi atin yun. They were there, maybe because of the involvement of the police, no offended to the audience there. They were cleansing and purging the ranks. Hindi atin yun. Yung inkwentro talaga na sinasabing inkwentro, yun ang atin. But they kept on hammering on the 3,000 as if it was mine. And I said, they think that I enjoy killing my own countrymen. But nabasa ko kasi ito dito. And this is what is it all about. Nakuha ng gago eh. He was able to read my mind. And he said, the Philippine president knows the strategic value of his country very well and has been playing high-octane power politics, something that has been absent in Southeast Asia for decades. After the president's visit to China, Philippine relations with China have improved dramatically, with the Filipino fishermen able to return and fish in Scarborough Shoal. The President has also been able to espouse Asians' long-held position that conflicting parties over territorial sovereignty issues must be settled bilaterally and that other aspects of joint cooperation can be done under the framework of ASEAN-China cooperation. By reducing tensions with China, the President has contributed to the strengthening of China-ASEAN cooperation, paving the way for other claimants to work on the settlement of their own disputes with China. For example, Malaysia, yung sumunod sa atin. With lesser tension in the South China Sea, the U.S. will have difficulties in finding reasons to enhance its presence and monitoring in these waters. Yun talaga ang gusto ko at nakuha ko. You know, alam ko man, when you say, if it had slur courses, I know that the world was listening. I know that they would get a lot of flack. But nobody was listening because I was trying to explain to them of the hugeness of the problem and the challenges before us. But itong human rights, including President Obama, unfortunately, trivialized. Minamaliit nila yung problema. At alam nila wala tayong para that we're in the middle of this budget. We spend what the budget says for today. And that budget was prepared last year by Aquino, not mine. And we would not have really thought that it would be this big until I squeezed everybody when I became president. So masakit sa akin kasi about 4 million Filipinos are addicted. At ganunin mo lang ako pa ang... And mind you, sabi ng Russia, we will protect you. And the problema, ang Russia withdrew from the International Court, Criminal Court. What could be the reason, I really do not know. Maybe to protect what they are doing in Syria daw, the incessant bombing and the killing of civilians. Yan ang leksyon ng UN. UN is dominated by the US. At saka yung climate change. We were debating that particular issue with the rest of the cabinet for about an hour. Ang akin kasi, there is no sanction for a violation. Yung money na 200 billion na pinagyayabang nila would come from the industrialized countries. Here comes the Obama says, Putya, bakit ako magasto sa mga Dapat you should worry of your own problems. Do not let America spend for you. And second is the absence of a sanction. And the treaty is binding. But if you choose to ignore, there is no sanction. Nobody goes to prison. Does not even, it says that you'll be reprimanded. Wala. Nothing. And the money, sabi manggaling sa industrialized countries. Wala namang sinabi kung sino. Kaya si Trump, sabi niya, hindi ako gagastos ng problema ninyo. You want to improve your climate there, above your sky, do it yourself. Bakit kami? So sinabayan niya yung maybe, sabi niya, wala inutil yung international criminal. Nag-withdraw sila sa membership. I might follow. Why? Tayo lang ang lilit ang binumbog ng mga walang hiya. Napatayan dates by the thousands, bombing children, women. For 5 years now, Aleppo, Mosul, walang pahinga ang mga tao doon sa bombing. And they have come to terms by just saying, it's the will of Allah. Yan ang sinasabi ko. Now you know. Sinadya ako talaga. If you ask anybody from Davao, hindi naman ako ganun. Pag mag-bullshit ako ng leader, kasi hindi sila nakikinig. Everybody was going back and forth every day on the same issue of extrajudicial killing. They didn't listen to me. I tried to explain that hindi amin yan. Meron nung ayaw makinig. Kaya di sinabi ko, putang ina yung mga hindot kayo. Oh, tinig sila sa akin. Sino ito nagmumura? O ako, bakit? See? Kabastusan nila yan, hindi akin. They forced me into it. Ngayon nagmura ako, talagang binastos, binaboy ko sila. Oh. Hilog, wala na. Matarantado ang... You know, if China and Russia would decide to create a new order, I will be the first to join. Alis ako dyan sa... There used to be the League of Nations before. It was in Hague, something. Itong predecessor ng United Nations. It used to be called League of Nations. Nothing happened. There's still war. United Nations, walang nagawa. Series of war. Vietnam, Taliban, ngayon dito. The killing is endless. The mouth is fluttering. Kaya yan ang leksyon natin. Just because it is America, it does not mean that it is good. Lahat naman, just because it comes from Russia or China, it is an ex-cathedra thing for us to mag-amin. Amen. But I will be guided only by the best interest of the people. I don't know kung anong pag-usapan namin dito. Pero pag nagkamali naman silang gusto nilang makaisa, dito na, practice na ako kagabi. Makatikim talaga sila sa akin. And I will lecture on them the finer points of civilization. Huwag din suluhin yung ano. Kayo lang paraking tigas eh. Kayo lang, you threaten us as if we are your laborers. Sabi, pakulong ako. Ano? Pakulong. Isama ko kayong lahat. That's the lesson. I was reading it because nakuha niya eh. Nakuha niya yung yung laro ko. Pero nung una, lahat sa cabinet, they were silent, ganun sila lahat. Sunny said that, you're the most unpopular leader in Europe. Sabi ko, never mind, son. I'm the president of the Philippines. I'm not their president. I don't care. I don't give a shit. Basta ako dito. O ngayon, kaibigan ko na ang China. Now here comes, sasabi ko, here comes an ex-general. Walang sekreto-sekreto, basta sila. I have an appointment to talk to him. The theme of our talk, to reset relations. Suluhin mo. Thank you.
President Duterte speaking as he leaves for Lima, Peru for the APEC summit scheduled for the 19th and the 20th. His main message in the summit, the Philippines is open to business. He says he will be doing everything to ensure that business will flourish. He says he will highlight government support and continue to address corruption and criminality towards inclusive growth. Earlier, he also showed documents on crimes, most especially drug-related cases, and notes his concern on the rise of child abuse, sexual battery, and crimes against women. He says he will be talking to the DSWD about it when he comes back. He also quoted an article that he says got exactly what he has been doing, and that line says he has been playing high-octane power politics, something that has been absent in Southeast Asia for decades. He's also saying that those curse words that he has been saying, he knows that the world is listening, but no one was listening when he talked about the greatness of the problem here in the country. He also said that if China and Russia decide to create a new world order, he'll be the first to join them. As I mentioned a while ago, the president is leaving for Lima, Peru for the APEC summit. While there, he may hold around 2 to 4 bilateral meetings with economic leaders, including Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Duterte has been seeking closer ties with China and Russia as he pursues a more independent foreign policy. If his meeting with Putin pushes through, that will be the first time the two would meet. Duterte has described Putin as his favorite hero. President Duterte already met with the Chinese president last month. We now have a list of the official delegation going with President Duterte. Secretary Perfecto Yasay of the Department of Foreign Affairs, Secretary Carlos Dominguez of the Finance Department, Delfin Lorenzana of National Defense as well, going with the President. For the Trade and Industry Department, we have Secretary Ramon Lopez. And for the NEDA, the Director General Ernesto Pernia will be with the President as well. Presidential Communications Secretary Martin Andanar, Hermogenes Esperon of the NSA as well, and also Senator Alan Peter Cayetano. We'll give you more news on News Now. Please stand by.
It was a very, very tense period. The possibilities of the declaration of martial law was there, and media was also under extreme pressure. We were partly